Oh, yes. Good evening or good afternoon if you're on the East Coast and in America. I hope you're doing well. Hello, I'm Michael, aka the TrekLad, and welcome back for another installment of Let's Talk About Star Trek Discovery. This week we are talking about the third season episode, the latest episode, Scavengers, brief synopsis, Against Orders. Michael Burnham goes searching for book and answers to the mysterious burn. But what will the consequences of her actions be? We're here to talk about this latest episode, and we're going to break it down. We're going to talk about the stuff we liked. We're going to talk about the stuff we didn't like so much, and we're going to get some opinions and just have a general nice water cooler conversation. Before we get going, I am on a mission to get to 1,000 subs by the end, by Christmas. And I have promised everybody that if I achieve this very lofty goal, I will literally record myself singing Faith of the Heart. I promise I will do it. I'm a man of my word. So far I'm about 930 subs. If you can help me get there, you've probably subbed already. If you have done, like this video, subscribe, push it so the algorithm goes, hey, you're a Trek fan, you want some of this B+ quality, because it is. That's what it is. But if you can do me a huge solid, that would be amazing. I mean, I kind of don't want to get to 1,000 subs because I really don't want to sing it, but or do I? I'm not sure. Anyway, look, thank you for joining me. And at this time, I would like to introduce this week's guest. We've got a veritable who's who of the Star Trek fan community here, and I can't wait to introduce them to the episode. They've already seen the episode. What am I talking about? Let's just get them in. Stop talking, Michael. Let's get the guests on. Right. First, Audible's bearded beast of marketing and owner of a legit Aladdin's Cave of Trek memorabilia. I am, of course, talking about the Irishman from Somerset, Albert Hogan. Hello, Albert.
Hey, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. You are rocking the Federation threads. I'm pleased to see.
Representing.
Absolute represent. I mean, there are not many of us these days. Thank you for joining, Albert. Next, we have, he's been holding this model up for a while, so I better get him on really, really quickly. He's without a doubt the coolest school teacher I never had. His name is Caleb, but you might know him better as Rogue Moog. How's
it going?
I'm better for that. That's quite an entrance. I mean, that's putting me to shame. I'm going to have to work on the intro gig now. Caleb, welcome. Thank you very much for joining. Next, we have Super Nurse, Super Mum, Super Wife, Super Trekkie, just Super Sarah. Hello, Sarah.
Good evening. I thought I was going to have quite a lot to live up to after following on from the boys, but actually you've bigged me up really well, so thank you for that.
I'm pleased that I have done my part. I was going to try and get some special effects confetti to come in. I didn't have enough time to work on it. It's a one-man production. Next time, I will get the confetti next time, I promise. And finally, last but very much not least, we have host of Bourbon and Bad Decisions, the award-winning. It's not officially won awards yet, but it's award-winning in everybody's heart. He is the Commodore himself and the Trek community's very own Dadmiral, the Commodore, Dan Decker. Hello.
Oh, good afternoon, good evening, and Michael, you had me at unsanctioned mission.
Oh, I mean, we're going to talk about unsanctioned for sure. Before we do get into that, though, I do want to say the customary hellos to everybody who is watching this live and in the chat. So, first of all, we have self-sealing stem bolts. Welcome. We also have Starfleet Boy, or aka Starfleet Babe. Welcome. I hope you're doing well. We also have Chris, aka His Lush. Hope you're doing well. We've got Kit. We've got Fathery. We've got Rod. Hello, Rod. We've got Brooke, aka Mrs. McCoy. Can't forget that. We've got Linus. We also have Corey, the returning champ Corey. Who else have we got? We got more people, but I'm going to say hello to more people later on. If you're in the live chat, let us know what you thought of this episode. We're going to get into it. We're going to talk about various aspects, but if we are missing stuff, or if you want to raise some talking points, ask some questions, stick them in the live chat and we will do our best to get to them. So thank you very much for joining. Right. Let's get into this. Episode 6, Scavengers. What did you enjoy the most about this latest Discovery adventure? Albert, kick us off.
It's got to be Linus this week. I mean, he just stole the show for me. He was kind of quantum leaping all over the ship, and that just was hilarious.
I kind of wish that he had done almost like an oh boy kind of like, but it did raise a question for me though, right? And I don't know if I'm just being a bit morbid here, but these personal transporters, and I guess you could have had it with the previous transporter technology, but could he not accidentally like materialize into a wall or into somebody else as they're walking down a corridor? Or should we not think about that?
Let's try not to think about it. I think there's also serious privacy concerns involved there as well. But
well, he definitely did accidentally break up what was supposed to be a very awesome cathartic moment, but we will get into that, I'm sure. Caleb, what was your favorite aspect of this week's episode?
I got to second Albert with Linus, but I also got to give some love to the technological upgrades of our lovely refitted Discovery.
Oh, yes. And we will 100% get into that later on in the show. There's a lot to talk about there. Sarah, confetti Sarah. Favorite elements of this week's episode? What did you like most?
I love the bridge crew's reaction to all their new tech. I mean, there was no playing it cool there at all. They were just completely overexcited, like kids at Christmas. Oh, new things, shiny things, buttons.
Very much so, yeah. And I really like it's almost it's a continuation, because I feel like the crew are the audience in both the last episode and in this one, because in the last episode when they enter into the new Starfleet Federation headquarters, they're like looking out the windows going, whoa, that's amazing, and they're like fangirling with the Voyager J. I think was it the J? Mm-hmm. It was the J, wasn't it? Yeah. And then this week they're like, oh, new toys, and it's exactly how we'd react, isn't it? It's exactly how we'd react. Yeah, Commodore.
Hey.
What was your favorite aspect of Scavengers?
Straight away, so the captain's log and the opening. We see the dots out there doing their thing, and I noted that the livery had the updated look. The border around the lettering, and I was like, "Where's this going?" And then, hey, showed up like the Fonz and Happy Days. And I thought that was really, it is now kind of a ship of Theseus. Is it the same ship? It's been updated with all these internal bits and programmable matter. And so just the concept behind that was intriguing to me. And I really, and I'm here for the ships as much as anything. So.
And this also does mean the guys at Eaglemoss. I mean, I know that the challenge has been laid down to Eaglemoss to somehow recreate what's going on with the nacelles, but I'm kind of more thinking that they're just going, awesome, more money. Yeah. We get to release another Discovery model. So, Caleb, get the wallet out.
Right now. No,
let's talk about the main aspect of this episode, because a lot of it was dedicated to Michael Burnham's pursuit of answers and her mission to rescue Book. What did we make of the developments with Michael Burnham, her mission to the junk, I'm just going to call it the junk planet, everything that happened with Book, everything that happened on a planet, just this whole storyline? Albert, what are your thoughts on this? What did you like? What didn't you like? And how do you think these developments will impact the rest of the season?
So I think this, we're at the point of the season where things are starting to kick into gear now. So this episode very much felt like it was time to progress the plot around the burn, because we've been hearing about the burn for many episodes now, but actually this gave us a little bit more. I think in that regards, it was great, because it moved things forward. We can see that next episode is probably going to be this, hopefully getting closer to solving the mystery of the burn. The thing that I was kind of surprised about was sort of actually Burnham's slight regression in her character, in that she almost went back to being that disobedient first officer again that we had all the way back in Battle of the Binary Stars. But I think her character has come along so far that the way it was sort of played out and acted by Sonequa, I think, was much more believable this time. So I think it was kind of a mixed bag for me, but I'm interested to see where the plot goes, particularly with the burn. I'm hoping that starts to, we start to get some answers to that soon. I love the chemistry between Burnham and Book, and it was great to see them finally, kiss after a false start, but they got there in the end. So yeah, it was good.
with everything between Burnham and Book, with all of their stories, they spent a year together pretty much. You know, it's implied that they spent most of that year together anyway, living very close quarters. Are you surprised that now they've just kind of solidified the relationship with a kiss? Or do you think they because I don't know what you guys think about this, but I actually had this theory that they might have been married and they were kind of keeping it hush hush for some reason. But I mean, this can't be the first time they kiss, surely.
There definitely was. I mean, you saw some heavy flirting going on, didn't you, in that kind of very quick sequence a couple of episodes ago?
Yeah.
Where they kind of, let's do a year in 2 minutes. So yeah, I think there was probably, definitely some flirtation. But yeah, I think I am a bit surprised it took this long. But then I think Burnham was so distracted with finding Discovery and the crew that, maybe she just didn't have the headspace for it.
Well, let's talk about Burnham's dedication to solving the mystery of the burn, Caleb. Why do you think she has taken this mission so to heart?
Well, I mean, she said it herself that she doesn't think the Federation will return to the status that it once was without, solving this mystery. They seem really stretched thin. I mean, they're responding at the beginning when they were doing they were all in the circle with Vance, and they were going over all the just mission details. And it's like all these things were relatively, trivial runs by, normal standards. But because of how limited everything is, they really are stretched thin. And the only way for them to return to their former glory really is to solve this mystery. I think that whole black box thing is, I feel like we're going to get like a novel to fill in like that whole year of time. They did that with the Enterprise War before season 2, filling out like everything that happened with Pike and his crew. I think they're going to give us a novel at some point that will fill in some of that story, and maybe give us a little more context as to why she's so hell-bent on solving it. But it'll be interesting to see how the rest of that progresses. I was actually going back to that first question, though. I was really surprised to see the the Emerald Chain, or the Orion and Andorian Syndicate come back after the first episode, and it makes me wonder if they're going to be a more persistent foil throughout the duration of the season.
Yeah, definitely got some feedback from somewhere. No, is it gone? Yeah, it's gone. It's gone. Great. It's an interesting thing because I mean, I think that we're always going to have them come back. I think they appeared a little bit too made up in the first episode. With the uniforms and the technology that they're using, I was expecting to see them come back at some point, perhaps not this early. I do think that they seem to be setting the Emerald Chain up as perhaps an antagonist, but I don't think that they are the primary antagonists. And I will get to the theory that I have very, very shortly. Sarah, with regards to Burnham, what were your thoughts with regards to her latest insubordination?
I think she was always going to do it because Burnham's a brilliant character, but she's not a very good Starfleet officer, actually. I mean, yeah, that's the only way to describe it. She's really not, and she did warn Saru that she kind of had her own agenda, but obviously wanted to be back with her family again. And they'd made such a huge sacrifice for her to have turned around at that point and kind of, said, actually, no, I'm not coming back to the ship. I've got my own things I need to do. She's not heartless. In fact, she's so full of heart that she quite often can't see the wood for the trees. I think a lot of the time she gets so fixated and focused on what she thinks is the next right move. And I just really felt for Saru, and I felt for him towards the end when he had that conversation with Tilly about actually just really wanting everything to be right and wanting it to be how it always had been, and that sense of betrayal. But she was always going to do that because she always thinks that what she's doing is the right thing to do. And generally it is, but it's not necessarily Starfleet.
That indeed, yeah. I feel like this was kind of one act too far. And we kind of saw that where Tilly was like, I can't really defend her anymore. And it's not like she's not committing horrendous acts, but it is every time she does something, it's almost betraying the faith that the rest of the Discovery crew have in her to act as a leader. And I guess from my perspective, it was quite frustrating this week because we saw last week what she is capable of. If you put her on the bridge and you put her in command, she is fantastic. It was like a well-oiled machine last week. Very, very slick the way that mission was executed. And but the thing is I think what I've seen on the internet is there's a lot of criticism towards people think that this is just an inconsistency of writing, and I don't agree with that. I actually think this is very intentional. I think we are supposed to be frustrated with Burnham. I think this is very intentional on the showrunner's part. I don't think it's by accident. I think we're supposed to go, last week we see what she's capable of when she is on point and she is trusted and she is communicating and she's doing all the things that she's expected to do. Now this week she's done a 180 because she's being driven by some passions, and she's really eager to atone for some of the past actions causing the Klingon war. She wants to be the hero. She wants to solve the Burn mystery. She wants to save the world, but by doing so she's just breaking too many rules. And it's really interesting to see the final scene with her and Saru, Commodore, because Saru, he'd reached that point, hadn't he? He's just like, I think this is, you've gone a bit too far here.
Right.
Do you think though? Do you think her punishment, because she wasn't demoted in rank that we know of, she's just told you're not number one anymore. Yeah. What does do you think the punishment was too soft? And also, what do you think? Where does Burnham fit within the Discovery crew going forward?
So it was summed up some years back by the Gin Blossoms in Hey Jealousy, in that, if you don't expect too much from me, you might not be let down. And so, it obviously pains Saru to have to take that responsibility from her, but she is an excellent science officer. She is not a good first officer. And she told him I wouldn't really be a good first officer. And he wanted to not be disappointed in her. And I think that he went easy on her because he felt super responsible that she failed, because he put her in the position to fail against her protestation. And so he couldn't take anything away from her other than what she didn't want. Because, it's his failure as a leader to put the wrong person in the job, as it were. And he knew that she was probably not a good fit. So
that's very interesting. And I think, Simon says it really well. I think Saru losing trust will sting more than a reduction in rank. And I think we kind of saw that, Burnham almost, in resignation, she knew what she'd done. But I still feel like she felt that she was right and justified in doing what she did. Don't forget, and a lot of characters, a lot of our heroes in Star Trek have broken the rules and have ultimately saved the planet on many occasions. If it wasn't for Kirk doing what he did, I am thinking a little bit, big here. If Kirk hadn't stolen the Enterprise, gone to the Genesis planet, he wouldn't have saved the Earth, because it just wouldn't have worked. So sometimes, these insubordinations, these acts, these crimes can actually be rewarded in a way. At the very end of the episode, Albert, Burnham took off her badge. And I felt that was symbolic. And I feel, my theory is that I don't think Burnham is long for Starfleet. Is that something that you saw? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think it was the sort of realization for her, because, she has that great moment where she says to Saru, you're doing the right thing. So she knows from her kind of Starfleet perspective that, it's the right thing to happen. But I think in her own mind, she knows that, really, I think that, Discovery and the crew are probably a means to an end to figure out what happened with the burn. So I think it was symbolic. I think she will drift even further away, is my sense, before probably coming back round. but she also realizes that, you know, her priorities just aren't aligned with Saru and the crew anymore. So yeah, so it did feel quite symbolic, and it'll be interesting to see her next week. You know, probably go back into her science officer's uniform and back to the vibes we were getting in season 2. So yeah, so it was an interesting. It was definitely an interesting move on her part, I think, and definitely intentional, I think, to signal that there's more to come.
Caleb, is that something that you agree with as well? Do you think that Burnham isn't long for the organization, or do you think that she'll find a way to turn it around and perhaps atone for what's happened?
I think I'm more in line with what Albert's thinking. You know, the whole fact that she spent a whole year already, you know, in this world, and she's waiting for the crew to catch up to where she's at in terms of technology and advancements and how things work, and just the general, you know, state of how people greet each other now at these, you know, in these times where everything's so hostile. So, you know, it might be a good thing for her to kind of distance herself from Starfleet for a bit, figure out what's going on, and then come back to the table and say, here's what we can do. Let's negotiate and, you know, bring the Federation back to what it should be. So that'll be interesting to see for sure. Yeah.
Sarah, do you think that Burnham might be setting herself up to be? I'm not suggesting that she die, because I don't think that will happen. But it wouldn't surprise me. Maybe. Interesting. But do you think that Burnham is kind of setting herself up to be the sacrificial lamb that will spark the flame that will reignite Starfleet and the Federation? Do you think that she will be the one to bring up, you know, she has a couple of actions in her that will see the rise and the return of the organizations that we know?
No, I don't think necessarily sacrificial, but I think definitely she sees herself. She can see the patterns that Caleb said that the rest of the Discovery crew can't see, and actually she can probably do more for the Federation by not being in Starfleet and being in the Federation. So actually Saru and the crew can concentrate on actually trying to keep the fleet together and keep Starfleet together, while she can go off and explore and try and solve her puzzle. Because, you know, she said she's a science officer. She said that before. What she does is she solves problems. And this is a massive problem that needs solving. But at the same time, there's the whole conflict that, you know, Saru and the rest of the crew have got with what's left of Starfleet, trying to regain their trust and trying to fit into that system. And I think it kind of reminds me a little bit of, you know, Janeway being out in the Delta Quadrant and just desperately trying to hold on to Starfleet values. You know, we wear a Starfleet uniform. We are Starfleet, even though there was no one there to see it. And I think that's been really important to Saru as well, having moved forward. So no, I you know, I like to think not sacrificial, but I think she definitely can do more off her own bat than she could wearing that uniform.
Yeah, I think so too. Commodore, Burnham's very intense in her efforts to find out what caused the burn. It doesn't seem like that intensity is being reciprocated by the superiors at Starfleet Command, and it feels like she's on a kind of one-woman mission to kind of fix this puzzle, solve this puzzle. Do you think there's more than meets the eye here?
There, you know, not thinking about it as you're drawing it out there, it could be, you know, Vance doesn't seem too shakeable one way or the other. He plays a very even keel, and is also doing a lot of favors for the gray-bearded sci-fi community. So I appreciate that. But yeah, I would say it feels like maybe an experiment gone wrong. Maybe Starfleet knows exactly what caused the burn, especially now that there seems to be information that it wasn't a one and done instantaneous all around, you know, like they were thinking, that it seems to be that it happened here and then there and then there. So maybe more of a chain reaction rather than an instantaneous reaction. But the idea that there's more to it than we see right now, and that there seems to be a significant level of disinterest from Starfleet, but the needs of the fleet to serve what remains of the Federation are also real. So hopefully we'll see it play out.
So that's an interesting, it's a theory that I think more and more people are kind of subscribing to, this idea that the Dadmiral kind of knows a little bit more than what he's letting on. And the reason why I mentioned the Emerald Chain is they are being pushed as this kind of villainous organization. Albert, do you think that's a red herring? Do you think that we're setting ourselves up for Starfleet, or what we know Starfleet now in this future? Do you think that they could be responsible for the burn and revealed as the primary antagonists at the end of this season?
I think it's a definite possibility. I do feel like the Emerald Chain is a red herring. An interesting one. And I know there's been lots of references to Osira, and, I'm assuming at some point we'll get to meet Osira. But yeah, I think that would be a much more interesting take on it, is actually, destruction from within. And, there's lots of theories doing the rounds. There's the one that actually, when Burnham sends her suit away and sets it to self-destruct, that causes the burn, which I hope it isn't, because, I think one thing Discovery has been criticized about is Burnham at the center of the universe in every single major thing that's happening. So I think that would be a much more interesting take. It feels like there's something going on with the, potential Section 31 Kovich character as well, which I think could be quite interesting. So there's lots of seeds of being planted. And I think that's something that Discovery is doing a lot better this season, is rather than giving us a dun 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 moment at the end of the episode, they're actually just planting seeds here and there that you kind of go, oh, I wonder what that is. Or, will that come back? Like the Emerald Chain, like Caleb was saying, them actually coming back again. That was, again, it's kind of interesting how they're building that. And I do think a lot of these plot points will come together and reveal something. So I've got faith in the writers that there's something interesting around the corner. I just want to know what it is now.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, Caleb, 13 episodes is always a bit of an awkward split, but we're pretty much at the halfway stage in the season now. What kind of theories are you formulating?
So I have a couple, and it stems back to Kovich, Cronenberg's character from last time, saying how the distance between the mirror universes kept growing, and I feel like maybe that has something to do with it. I'm also keep thinking back to Calypso and how that was still the OG Discovery and not the technologically upgraded one. And I'm wondering, is that like an out of phase copy that got split off in the wormhole or something, and maybe that exploded and caused the burn? I don't know. There are a lot of different things that could be out there, I do think that Philippa Georgiou's character has more going on that will be related to the burn and why it's been caused potentially. And then even just the timing we know with the temporal Cold War, even though they said it, it was 100 years ago or 120 years ago, that's really close to when the burn happened. So I still feel like even the Cold War had something to do with it. I don't know. They're pulling us in a lot of different directions, so it's really hard to theorize.
There are a lot of mysteries at the moment, and there's a lot to kind of hold on to. I do feel like the mystery box is far more manageable this season, so I'm very pleased with that. But Sarah, with regards to again, kind of pushing that same question onto you in terms of the mysteries unraveling and the questions that we have, what kind of resolution are you hoping for?
Oh.
I've never had to do this before, but you're on mute.
I know, I've got it. I know. Honestly, what is it? 8 months I've been in Teams meetings. I think I've got the hang of it by now. Lordy. I was gonna say I haven't even got that far. I think there's so many threads, and I can tell you the bits that I'm not in. I don't want and I don't like, but as to where it's all going to end and where I hope it's going to end, I genuinely haven't got that far yet. I think with the Emerald Chain though, I think I agree with Albert and Caleb that I think they're going to be more of an annoyance. They're going to be kind of just a little irritation to stop missions from running smoothly, as opposed to, the big bad that's going to be causing everything. I like the idea that it's the Federation at the center of it, because that's kind of, everyone talks about Discovery being quite dark, and I think that kind of fits with the mood of the series.
Yeah, indeed. Well, Commodore, I was going to ask you the question. Would the idea that it's all an internal conspiracy, would that kind of, I mean, I don't know how I feel about it. I would say that I'm kind of tired of conspiracies and internal politics and secret shady organizations. How would you feel about it?
What if now don't tell anyone, but what if it's all Section 31 now?
Oh, no.
What if it's all Section 31
I
now?
can't be doing with more Section 31.
No, I definitely think Starfleet is, they know more than what they're letting on. There's something there. As far as these other threads, the Emerald Coast or whatever they are, they have to be a red herring. They're funny but brutal. I mean, it's dark humor, but they're always a lark. And so that that is something that is obviously throwing off, which could be a double subversion. I don't know. But yeah, the Starfleet is definitely playing it close to the best. And so yeah, I'm not sure where that's going, but it's not on the level.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what. If I see Vance conspiring with, guys, I've just worked it out. What if what's a siren? Is it a siren?
Sorry.
Yeah,
Osira.
yeah. What if Osira is actually Vance? I think we've worked it out. I know. Right,
Osira is referred to as a she in this episode.
I know. Look, it's the future. Anything can happen. I just let's move on. Let's move on. Let's talk about Giorgio, because Giorgio had a lot to do this week, and we saw some really interesting developments happen with that character. Albert, what were your thoughts with regards to Philippa's development, and where do you see that going?
I mean, I would just start by saying that Michelle Yeoh is a delicious actress. I mean, she went to town in this episode. I love the way she dressed down the Orion. You know, when she screams "form a sentence," I was like, yes. So you know, I thought that was classic Giorgio. You know, you got the sass, you got the ass kicking, but then you got some mystery. And I think I'm really glad that Giorgio isn't going to hopefully default into sassy ass kicker for the rest of the season, that there's actually some mystery going on there as well. Those flashbacks, or I assume they're flashbacks, were intriguing because it hints at the Terran Empire. I think she says the word sun. There's blood on her hands, literally. So really fascinated to know where that's going. And it's definitely got something to do with her conversation from last week. So I think she will come more to the fore over the next few episodes as that starts to come to light. And I think it'll probably be that shift in the character that you probably need to see before she leads her own show. So I think that's my take on it. But I really loved her in this episode. I thought she got some fun stuff to do.
Yeah, definitely. Caleb, kind of same question to you, really, in terms of Giorgio's development. What were your thoughts on this, and particularly those flashbacks, flash forwards, whatever those premonitions may be? What were your thoughts with those sequences in particular?
So I was watching with subtitles on, and I know a lot of people thought she was saying sun, but she was actually saying San, S-A-N, according to the subtitles. So that's the name of a character or someone in her past, present, future. I don't know. I honestly, what Albert said made me think, what if it's not actually a flashback, but they're implanted memories that Kovich put there?
Ooh, why? Why would he put them there?
Another mystery box. But it's possible if he's trying to kind of corral her into doing his bidding. It would make sense for him to kind of implant some memories and for her to kind of be just like zoned out at the end of that last episode, and then have a recurring issue where she's remembering things that are just shutting her down entirely. Like there's a difference between having a flashback and then like just being, completely removed from the situation. She straight up collapsed. Like that was kind of crazy to me. And so it seems like there's some extra dissonance that we're unaware of.
I've seen some crazy theories on the internet with regards to Giorgio. People are saying that she's been replaced with a hologram. I mean, if she is a hologram, I can't see how she could be having flashbacks or memories or anything like that. Maybe, I don't know. But a lot of theories with regards to what is going on with Giorgio. Sarah, what are your theories? What do you think is going on with the former Terran Empress?
So I think something was definitely happened to her during her debrief with Kovic. I'm actually really a bit disappointed though. I don't want her to have any character development. I liked her just the way she was. She was sure and she was safe and she was the smartest person in the room, and you knew that whatever happened, she was getting out of it. So now like I say, it's a bit like having the rug pulled out from under you, that, oh gosh, you don't know what's going to happen next. Whereas you always kind of before knew that whatever was going to happen, she was going to be okay. And now she might not be. But I think the conversation we had earlier about actually the mirror universes moving has got something to do with it. That's what I think. But I was a bit like, no, not my Giorgio.
Do you see that as the showrunners, the writers, attempting to make Giorgio a more sympathetic character?
Yeah, possibly, but I think her tie with Michael does that in a much more subtle way, and it's one that's got a bit more. It's one that she can sustain, so she can sustain her persona and her own idea of herself while still caring about Michael. She's kind of squared that circle for herself, whereas her having some kind of psychological trauma, like for someone like that who is so strong, who is so strong-willed, I just don't want her to unravel completely. I think that would be really. It's probably really interesting in terms of story development, but would be a bit sad for her character.
Yeah, I mean, speaking personally, like you, I didn't really want development for Giorgio. I don't think Mirror Universe characters are supposed to have development like this. They're supposed to be moustache twirling, hammy, I'm going to chew the scenery villains, one dimension. I don't really like the idea that we're trying to build Giorgio as a sympathetic character. She is evil space Hitler. We're not supposed to like her.
And she likes being that.
She likes it, yeah. And the thing is that kind of, I mean, it's almost like we don't want to publicly say it, but we kind of like it, how she's so evil and she's just gonna, she's so perfectly evil. There's almost that kind of, it's like Mirror Universe Spock. He's evil, but he's like, we're digging. Commodore, how does Giorgio get from what is going on right now to a potential Section 31 spin-off show?
Well, I think, what if it's a Giorgio swap? What if they have a previous Giorgio, or as you said, could be a hologram, but they also have sentient holograms that don't know they're holograms. So that's still on the table. Those first agents that were interviewing her in that one episode didn't know they were holograms. They were artificially intelligent sentient life forms that had no idea that they were constructs. So that's a possibility. But I'm with you. I feel like this is just an attempt to artificially humanize her, and I didn't need that for her. Not because, I love that she was just deliciously evil, and that was the level, because you knew what you were getting. You don't need depth in a character like that. In a lot of ways, and the connection to Michael is what grounds her to us. But something is going on there, and I don't know if we got a retcon happening or what the deal is. But the flashbacks are an interesting take.
So retcon, interesting that you've raised that, because that segued me so nicely into what I'm going to talk about next. Because as I was enjoying the visuals of the new Discovery A, which I have no problem with, I'm assuming you guys don't have a problem with it either. Now, the ship is being retrofitted. It has a new exterior shell. It has a new deflector dish, new nacelles that using awesome new programmable matter can split away. Can't wait to see that in action, by the way. I think that's going to be swell, especially given the fact that we saw Book's ship towards the end of the episode, almost move its mechanical pieces around. I wonder if we're going to get similar stuff. I will do exactly what Dan Decker just did. I will literally fangasm all over the place. But look, as I was doing my review earlier, I kind of went, wait a minute. The Discovery A is essentially a new ship now. It's clearly a new ship. Does this eliminate Calypso from canon, Albert?
Quite possibly, but I think they'll find a way around it, the writers, to explain what it is. It was my first thought when I saw it. Well, after squealing when I saw the A on the end of the registry, was very much like, oh, hang on, how's this going to work? So the idea of a retcon there is quite is very much a possibility. But I think they're conscious of it because, obviously, I think it was last episode we started to get hints of Zora coming through in the computer. So it's obviously front of mind for them. So that makes me think there's probably something along the way that will address that. But yeah.
It's really difficult because there are people in the chat and there are people on Twitter going, no, it's still canon. It's still canon. But I mean, they're going to have to do some crazy things because the Discovery, I mean, even the color of Discovery has changed. It's gone from being that metallic bronze to now very much a silver color in line with the models that we're seeing in the future. Caleb, like if we do fit Calypso into this future, now I might be just thinking two-dimensional, but I'm really struggling to see how programmable matter nacelles and the Discovery A then all of a sudden goes back to being just the Discovery bronze ship in the nebula in Calypso. Talk me through how they can possibly fit this into happening.
So I think the thing, I just rewatched Calypso before we got on this because I was also still struggling with this. And I wonder if Calypso could either take place in a parallel universe, right? Or another possibility, Zora's like fully evolved at the point of Calypso. And it's just like the beginning seeds. I wonder if they're laying these threads and we're really not going to find out anything about Zora and how the Discovery gets abandoned until like season 4 or even 5, 6, 7, however many Kurtzman says there's going to be at this point. It's still too early to tell, but they can retcon it at some point or figure out a way to connect back. But yeah, they definitely are very conscious of it.
Sarah, are we just thinking things too much? Is it sometimes just nice when we have these little mysteries and ultimately does it really matter?
I guess it matters if it matters. Like, it doesn't matter to everybody. I was very confused by your question on Twitter because I had no idea. I've only seen Calypso once. All I will say is we're watching a sci-fi show where time travel has been involved. So you can do anything if there's wibbly wobbly timey-wimey stuff happening. So, and they're very good at kind of, and like Caleb said earlier, the novels in particular are very good at kind of picking up the gaps in the series, in the TV series. So I'm sure at some point someone will write a book which will explain it all if the series itself doesn't.
Well, that will please Caleb because he loves book. I don't like books so much, but no, it as long as they answer the questions in the show. Now, Valamist, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. This is a very interesting concept. Could the programmable matter be used to revert Discovery to its pre-32nd century form? Dan, this is something that I had a thought about, and kind of tying it in with what Caleb was saying, Zora being this wholly evolved being. Who knows? Maybe Zora could actually change the outward appearance of Discovery. What are your thoughts? What do you think?
Sure. Well, first of all, get out of my head because that is exactly what I was thinking. Is that Zora is sentient. And maybe she likes that classical style because we got the movie that she watches. She likes that classical dress. Maybe she wants to look like her previous self. We know that. I mean, when they went to the mirror universe, the dots changed the livery to ISS right on the spot. So a paint job is boom boom and done. So yeah, it's an easy talk back. It's a way to say, she just stressed herself back out. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it will annoy some people on the internet, but I hope it does. Let's talk about what we didn't like, because there are plenty of things that I didn't like. I mean, I personally see this episode as probably being the weakest of season 3 so far. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think season 3 has been absolutely just brilliant so far. I think it was always going to struggle against the last 2 episodes, which I thought were absolutely fantastic episodes. What did we like least about this episode? What do we want to complain about, Albert?
There's a couple of things for me. I think the fact that, the whole kind of upgrade to the ship was just kind of glossed over initially, kind of Saru doing his speech, especially for us as well to actually absorb it. It was just all very kind of quick and, oh wow, it's got new cells and a new nav dish, and we never knew that. I think the other thing, and I think this is probably a case of just the volume of characters we now have in the show, is that yes, we got moments with all the main cast in this episode, but there were so many threads going on. I really enjoyed the moments with Adira and Stamets, which were nice kind of character moments, which gave a nice balance to the kind of action bits going on with Burnham. But there are so many characters that we all love so much that you want to spend time with. I just think, that there's maybe the danger that they lose some of the progression of the characters. So, Detmer's had some good kind of character development this season, and all we really got this episode of her was kind of going, do we really need all this fancy stuff? So it's just that inconsistency in terms of the character growth, I think, would be my kind of thing.
Yeah, I do feel like the episode did a much better job of previous episodes and previous seasons of having a bit of a better balance of some of those because it was clear that Burnham's trip was the A plot and the B plot happening on Discovery, but we still had a level of service. We still saw Adira and Stamets. We still saw Stamets and Kolber. I was very disappointed that we didn't get more Kolber, because I think he's been the hero of the last 2 episodes, and more Kolber, please. I mean, dude's good looking as heck, isn't he? But I mean, I do feel like the balance is getting there, and I do like the fact that we're still getting those moments to service the bridge crew, and it still feels like it's kind of there and it's come together. We're going to have time to explore the crew, but I am with you for sure. Caleb, same to you. What were your biggest bugbears this week?
So you actually mentioned it earlier today on Twitter, but the kind of cookie cutter format of going down to the planet, let's rescue a guy and like come back and all that. And yeah, like, I don't know. It wasn't the most original story, but as Albert was saying earlier, definitely it was a setup episode. Like, it didn't feel like a standalone, really. It was, here's all the setup that we need to launch us into the next part of the season. And so I guess I can forgive that part. Then you're right, it's some of the characters that we haven't really seen or heard much of yet. We barely have seen Dr. Pollard. Jet Reno was in like a blip of the episode last week, but we haven't seen her for a couple of episodes. And I'm actually surprised too that, we got a couple of scenes with Tilly, but we haven't really had much growth for Tilly since the second episode in Far From Home. And I mean, it's tough with how many characters there are. It really is tough to hit everybody, and we're only 6 episodes in, so there's more to come. But yeah, I would agree. I don't think this is my favorite of the season. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great either.
Yeah. I'm with you that I mean, and I'm seeing it in the live chat, and I saw it on Twitter. I think the biggest critique of this episode is the salvage planet, and it was just cruel, action schlocky, not really that original kind of stuff, and that's the biggest thing for me, and I'll elaborate on more in a minute probably. But Sarah, for you, what was your least favorite aspect of this episode?
Yeah, I think I agree with Albert and Caleb. It was kind of the lack of the other characters. So Tilly's one of my favorites, and I feel like she's not. I think there's been too many new additions so that she's actually not getting enough airtime now. And I love Adira, but them developing that relationship between Adira and Stamets is at the expense of Stamets and Tilly, which I thought was a beautiful relationship and was really lovely. And also, and you talked about, does it matter? I was just very distracted by Stamets and Culber's matching pajamas. Are they Starfleet issue, or have they just decided to wear matching pajamas?
Oh, they're just adorable. I don't know. I love it.
That's all I kept thinking about during that whole scene. I was like, does everyone wear pajamas like that, or is it just those two? If anyone knows the answer, I'd love to know.
Please let us know if you know the answer. But all I'm going to say is, I said it in my review. I think that Stamets and Culber is one of the best gay relationships that I've ever seen on TV.
Just lovely. Yeah.
It's not just the fact that it's strongly written, beautifully acted. It's just nice. It's just nice to see. And I don't think we've had any scenes like that since season 1. I don't think since the toothbrush scene where I first went, this is really well written. This is really good. These are characters I care about. So I want more of that. I want more pajama scenes, please. And I want to know where I can buy those pajamas so me and my partner can wear the same. She won't. But I might need to get you into a pair of pajamas, Albert. Maybe, I don't know. Who knows? Let the shipping begin. Commodore. Finish us off. What did you dislike the most about this episode?
I dislike that Tilly's not a cat person, really. That was adorable to me. Her and the interaction with Grudge, just beautiful. And what little bit of time, to Sarah's point, what little bit of time that Tilly got was meaningful, because she wasn't her frantic self. She was confident. She was a leader to that other young man who wasn't quite clear where he needed to be, and she had her stuff on point and ready to go. And then she was only shooken a little with her interaction with Saru, regarding her emotional connection with Burnham, but a lot of growth in a very short amount of time. But really, yeah, kind of thinking about the just kind of the, how many times have you seen the planet where the head gets blown off when you run through the fence? I mean, really?
The Running Man, Battle Royale, Hunger Games. It's just such a trope.
It's done. Yeah, and there's no way you can't do it. I mean, that was exactly what you thought it was going to be.
Yeah,
it was. Yeah. I mean, Misty.
I would say the one redeeming factor for the episode with regards to Salvage Planet is the fact that the Andorian survived, and there is Shran potential there. I want to love another Andorian, and I'm glad because as soon as he got shot, I was like, oh no. Why do we always introduce characters just to kill them? But I think there's some potential there. And if I remember correctly from coming on this season Discovery, I think him and Detmer have an adventure. So interesting to see what happens there. All good thoughts, really. I mean, some elaboration on why I think this is the weakest episode. Obviously, the Salvage Planet sequence for me wasn't great. Wasn't great at all, given the fact that it was the A plot as well. And it's going to be a bit of a lazy critique for me. It just didn't hold me. I just wasn't engaged with what was going on, because I just saw it as being something that I'd seen a number of times in Discovery. Even in Discovery, we've had this trope before. It was basically just a hunt for a MacGuffin, a very important MacGuffin for sure. And it was helped by the fact that we have the Andorian and books there as well, and got a lot of time for books. So also, obviously, as we alluded to, Giorgio, I don't want to like her. I like the fact that I don't like her. That's how it's supposed to be. But yeah, I mean, just some nitpicks really. But there we go. Right, guys, final thoughts, ratings. We're almost out of time. Albert, sum up Scavengers for me and give it a rating out of 5 Starfleet Deltas.
So I think you're right. This is the weakest episode of the season so far, but actually the bar is so high, it's still a good episode. We're kind of in the mid-season, time to advance the plot. So let's do a bit of kind of maneuvering around that. So I think for me, it's probably a 3.5 out of 5 deltas. I still enjoyed it. I still watched it. There was enough stuff going on, mainly with the other characters outside of Burnham, that I enjoyed it. So yeah, but I'm intrigued to see where it goes next.
Caleb, thoughts and ratings?
So I'm about the same. I would say overall 3 out of 5 deltas. It was good. It was enjoyable. There was a lot of Easter eggs that were there that were, pretty cool. But I wasn't really a huge fan of the Scavengers plot itself down on the planet. But just as a side note, it's going on in the chat right now, but I was going to bring it up anyway. Ren the Andorian is actually played by Mary Wiseman, Tilly's husband, in real life. And so they kept it in the family, which is a cool casting choice. I really enjoyed seeing him. They did a whole feature on him getting his makeup done and everything, which everyone should check out. It's pretty cool.
I love it. I didn't know that. There we go. I've learned something. The school teacher has taught us something. Yes. Thank you, Caleb. Sarah, for you, final thoughts and a star rating, please.
Yeah, I think I'd probably go 3.5 as well. Like it was good. I didn't pick my phone up, so that's good. And I quite like the fact that the scavenger planet, well, again, we've seen it done it, and how many breakouts have there been throughout the whole of Star Trek history. I like the fact you got a bit of Book's character development as well. Kind of, the stuff he did with the transworms translates to humanoids as well. So I quite like that. And we did like Book's ship at the end. So we, as the ship started moving, we all collectively just went, ooh. so that was good. But yeah, it was fine. It's probably not an episode I would choose to watch again out of sequence, but it was okay.
Yeah. Commodore, same to you.
Yeah, so definitely, kind of find ourselves in the same spot in the middle of the season where we were with Lower Decks. That, wham bam, thank you everyone for the first few, and we kind of hit a stride here. That we didn't get to see the girl go anywhere was kind of disappointing. I always like to see the ship travel, and we didn't get that. The trivia about May Wise's husband, that's interesting, because they're doing a D&D group and he's their DM with Anthony Rapp and Blue and Ian and Mary are all playing. I'm pretty sure they're playing the same campaign I'm running for all of our friends, the Icespire Peak Dragon of Icespire Peak. But a lot of fun there. But yeah, it's it's not a bad episode, and not a lot got done though, and that's kind of put it in the middle, about 3.5.
Okay, well, here's where I'm going to sound really harsh, because I don't do halves, I don't do quarters, I just don't do them, and I feel like. Yeah, I feel like my ratings are a little bit restricted, but I would rather be there. But then I can kind of explain. I basically don't want to Photoshop half deltas. They're not symmetrical. It doesn't work, and it annoys me. So I go for the full deltas. I am giving this episode 2 deltas out of 5. But the reason I know, but listen, I mean, I'm going with the full thing. The reason why, and I think I am judging this on an entirely different level now. A 2 for Discovery Season 3 would have probably been a 3 for previous seasons. It's the quality has gone up. The quality has jumped up significantly. So there's that. I would say if I was giving halves and 3/4, this would probably be a 2.5. So it would be kind of on that average. But I'm weird and I have to give things whole deltas. But it wasn't a bad episode. It's not a bad episode. It just fell short of the lofty expectations that season 3 has now done for me. Every week I'm expecting, maybe unfairly, the same stuff that we got the last couple of weeks. But as I said in my review, you cannot hit a home run every single time. Not even Deep Space Nine did that. Not even Deep Space Nine season 4, 5, and 6, and 7. You would have episodes that would just dip in quality, because constant quality is very, very difficult to attain. So yeah, there we go. All right, guys, we're out of time. It's been tremendous. I've really enjoyed this. Albert, what are you up to right now? Where can you be found on the internet?
Right now, I'm looking forward to having a weekend off after a busy week at work. But you can find me on Twitter at Albert Hogan.
Awesome. Caleb, once again, thank you so much for gracing us with your presence. Tell us what you're reading right now and where can you be found?
So I'm currently reading the first Vanguard novel by David Mack, Harbinger, I think is the title. And actually, I just sent a copy to Sarah, too. She's going to start. So if anyone's interested in probably in like a month or so, maybe a month or two, chatting about that one on Twitter, Rob Chapman's taking a break from Trek Book Club. So I think we're going to do our own little thing. So that would probably be the best place to be. And you can find me at Rogue Moog. Also, quick shout out, Starfleet Boy couldn't make it today. So I got to bring up the ship again because he brought it up so many times last time.
There we go.
We miss you.
We've got to give him a plug. TQIF is coming up this evening, him and Favery on Text Trek. I need him to send me over a graphic so I can promote it during the show because I love those guys and they do a tremendous job with their live streams too. So TQIF over on Text Trek, go and give them a follow if you haven't already and go and enjoy their streams. I think it directly follows this stream. Sarah, what does life look like for you at the moment and where can you be found on the internet?
So, like Albert, we're going to be having a nice weekend off. We've got The Mandalorian to catch up with tomorrow, and we're still working our way through Enterprise. We're very close to the end of the last season, so that's what we're going to be doing. And you can find me on Twitter. I'm at Trek Explorer.
Awesome. That's a great handle as well. I really like that one. And finally, Commodore, talk to us about your latest episode of Bad Decisions in Bourbon, and what are you up to on the internet, sir?
Oh, right on. So you can find me at DANDECKR on Twitter. Everything flows from there. I would like to thank Starfleet Boy for his absence because that's what allowed me to be here today. And so thank you for that. But this past episode dropped yesterday, Thursday, is with Thad Tyrannicus on Twitter. If you want to learn a little bit more about Thad and what it is to be autistic, have a listen to that. And then just before coming on here, I recorded Thursday's episode, Thanksgiving in the U.S., with Rashid. And he is going to be my very special Thanksgiving gift to you all.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, look, guys, thank you so much for joining. Albert Hogan, Caleb Rogmo, Sarah, Super Nurse, and the Commodore Dan Decker. Thank you very much for joining. See you next time, guys. And there we go. That's it. That's another episode of Let's Talk About Discovery done. Thank you so much for joining. We will be back next week with the highly anticipated episode Unification Free. I wonder what that's about. Let the theories commence. Guys, if you haven't already, like this live stream, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Get me to that 1,000 so I can sing Faith of the Heart. Oh god. Guys, thank you so much for joining. And yeah, we will see. Next week, the 26th, I believe, is Thanksgiving for my friends over in the US. So happy Thanksgiving to you guys. I hope you have the best time. We will be back next Friday, 9 p.m. GMT, 4 in the East. I hope you can join. Until then, stay safe, live long, and prosper.